Now, one thing that you were talking about your communication design major in that, and I was reading up in your bio, and I know that you jumped around a lot in school, but you know, I really saw where a lot of the things that you were doing kind of came into play. Like your English is obviously coming into play now, and you know, I thought, you know, set design, you know, it even has a way of influencing how you create a scene within the book. And so I was just curious to see what you felt out of all of your majors, like, you know, physics, film, art history, all of those. Like, what do you feel like you've really been able to draw out of each one of those to really help you with what you're doing today?
The only one that's probably impacted me personally instead of fictionally was East Asian studies, because I studied a lot of East Asian religion, and I think that's definitely impacted me, but hasn't yet, I will say yet, bled into my stories. But film and set design, I'm a very cinematic writer in that I did think initially that I would go into film because I have to see my scenes before I write them. It's very simple. I just, you know, I have to see the entire scene before I ever, you know, start clicking keys or put pen to paper or what have you. So film was a very natural thing for me, as was set design, again, because it's a matter of visualization. Art history, because I love understanding the origins of things, whether it's psychology or art history or anthropology. Like, I love seeing how we got to a place, and that's why the psychology part of me is like, oh, I should go back to 2009 and chart all of the things that were happening in February when I started writing this book and look at all of the different, you know, visual and psychological influences, because that kind of thing just fascinates me. And by the time I got to my major, again, I probably would have switched back to English, but I was a second semester senior, and they told me I couldn't. I was starting to find ways to merge my different areas of interest. So as a senior, I actually did an interdisciplinary thesis with communication design and English. And I started finding ways to merge the different areas that I had studied over the course of my time at WashU. And I think that I'm still doing that as a writer. I'm on my third project now, and I look at the way that I form stories, and even though everything about the stories changes every single book, it's still a very, I'm trying to think of the word that I want, amalgamation. Like, everything is just kind of, it's messy and it's tangled, but it comes from many different areas. And I feel like, again, I have that plate analogy where I'm looking at everything on my plate for a project, and I'm not pulling just from English, ever. You know, I'm pulling from English, and I'm pulling from art, and I'm pulling from a random newspaper article I read, and goodness knows what else, but there do seem to be varied sources for everything that I work on, and I love that. Like, I love the idea that nothing is linear. I hope that it never becomes linear for me writing, because I think that I always want it to be a very tangled process. I think it adds a lot more to it when it is.
Yeah. And when you're talking about how, you know, you visualize it first, and you've tried to almost put it in a cinematic way, and just know that I won't put this in because I don't like to spoil anything for anybody, but despite what the latest news reports are saying that people like spoilers.
Yeah, I don't like spoilers.
No, I think it proves
I don't understand people who read the end of a book first. I'm going to admit that. I don't understand it. I'm like, don't do it.
No.
We work so hard.
So again, I'm not going to spoil it, so don't worry. But at one, you know, I loved the scene at the end where I could see it happening. You know what I mean? It was totally written in a way that you saw, and you know, it was. And that was something that I was like, oh, that would look so good on screen. You know, that would come across just so eerily.
I think that's the constant fear as a cinematic writer, is you're writing it and you're trying to find the absolute best articulation possible while keeping it poetic and hoping that someone else is going to see it, you know? Because, like, obviously, it's kind of like when we write twists in books. Like, we as the authors know what the twists are, and so it doesn't feel very magical or mysterious to us, and we kind of just have to hope that the person reading it who doesn't know anything doesn't get it, doesn't get it until the right moment. And I think it's the same way with visuals, where we kind of have to write it and then hope that someone is going to be able to close their eyes and see it the way that we can. So I'm really, really excited that you can see it, because it's one of those things where it's like a very big point for me, is that I'm always really, really focusing on trying to help my reader see it exactly as I do.
Yeah, I mean, and there's definitely the scene where I just thought that one particular scene was just really riveting.
Oh, yay.
So, and because of the cinematic things, so now that your fan base is growing and everybody's going to be loving this book and picking it up, who would you want to see playing your main characters if it was put into a movie?
Oh, okay, I'm such a letdown on this answer because I spent, like, this is a very, I guess, popular thing for writers to do is they'll go online and they'll try to find people, they'll cast their characters very early to help them have visuals while they're writing them. And I spent that book is 2 years in the making, and I spent a good portion of those 2 years scouring the internet for my perfect Lexi and Cole, and have never found them. So my answer to that question becomes, I think that this is the perfect kind of film to introduce unknowns, like some budding stars, because I don't actually think that I would like to have Cole played by, like, a Taylor Lautner type. No offense to Taylor Lautner, but, like, you know, I would like my characters to be a bit more organic than that, and I think that it would be the kind of film that would really lend itself to the up-and-coming stars, preferably British ones, but, you know.
I love we're big BBC fans, so.
Yeah, oh my goodness, that's BBC. I miss it like, whoa, now that I'm back in the States, but.
Do you have BBC America?
I do. There's like a delay though. I don't know, because I'm a big Doctor Who fan. They make a delay in the States for the Doctor Who episodes. I'm counting down until the episodes come back.
I know isn't it this weekend that they're doing a special, like a That's Doctor Who?
Yeah, I'm so sad though because the next series there's not going to be any in 2012, and the next series isn't going to start until 2013. My heart.
No. Don't tell me that.
They're going to do like a few special episodes in 2012. Like I think they did that with 2009 or 10. They did the same thing, but there's not going to be like a full series again until 2013. And I was like, that is really cruel.
Which means they'll probably have a new Doctor by then.
Oh. Yeah, and because 13 is the 50th anniversary, which is why they're doing that. Sorry, we're big. All my writing friends, all big Doctor Who.
So who's your favorite Who?
Oh, 10. Like, without hesitation. I think that Matt Smith is really hot, and I will hand it to him, but at first I didn't think he would be angsty enough, 11, but he's definitely got a little bit of the angst happening, but I was just such a huge Tennant fan. I think part of it is that when Tennant was on, they made it really episodic, and so you could pick out, like, all your favorite episodes, and in Matt Smith's Regeneration, they haven't made it really episodic. Like, everything's been tied together, and I think that is harder for him to stand out for me as, like, the fabulous Who, because I just loved so many of Tennant's episodes. I'm getting all dorky over here.
No, I mean, this is what we're the geek side, so, but what's funny is that are you
guys in 10 or 11?
We're on, we currently, of course, in 11. We haven't watched all of Tennant yet. We watched Eccleston, and we're kind of halfway through the first season of Tennant, so we haven't even gotten into the good stuff yet. We saw Blink.
I hit the Shakespeare Code, which is like the one that Tennant does set in Shakespeare's time with witches and the power of words and stuff.
I don't think
I was sold. It's season 3 sometime in season 3, I know, because I'm going to start watching.
We had a friend show us Blink. You know, she said, now this will sell you on everything.
Blink.
So that's when we decided, okay, we have to start watching.
Yeah, so we actually started
with Matt Smith.
With Matt, we've really liked it, and we really enjoy him personally. Yeah. And like Tennant, he hasn't grown on us yet.
And you're watching it reverse. See, I haven't seen any of it, and then I was in England, and I had finished my deadline, and I was really sick, and I basically had 2 weeks off, and all of my friends have been pressuring me for 6 months to watch Doctor Who, and I was like, I don't want to do this, it's not going to be good, and they were like, you have to do it, and so I watched the first season of the reboot, so it's the 9th Doctor, and I hated him, like I hate him so hardcore, he just annoys me, and he's not cute, and I'm really shallow, and all these things, and they were like, you have to stick with it till Tennant comes, and then I think it took me like 2 episodes of Tennant, and I got so hooked, and I was knocking out like full seasons in a matter of like 1 to 2 days, like I pretty much like ate and slept and watched Doctor Who. When I got through the whole 5 seasons in, I want to say, like a week and a half. It was pretty sad. Like, never tell anyone at my publisher that because I was supposed to be working. But it was the most fabulous way to devour Doctor Who.
You were just getting inspiration.
I was. I feel like it was all research, you know? I mean, it was fabulous, though. So you guys have an interesting experience watching it. You've got Matt Smith first, so he's all like, you know, you got to have him in your mind first. Whereas if you had started with 9, who was just my least favorite, you would have you would have latched to Tennant because Tennant replaced number 9, and you were just like, thank God somebody replaced number 9. So he's good though. You got to stick with Tennant because he's amazing.
Yeah, Eccleston, I felt like he just didn't have the warmth. Like, I just didn't see where they would like feel so close together. You know, him and his companion, and so I don't know. But I mean, we enjoy the episodes, but yeah, we just kind of, you know, when we were comparing Matt and him, you know, Matt's so much warm and cuddlier.
Matt is definitely warmer.
Yeah.
But again, you've cheated because Matt followed Tennant, and like they needed it because you had like 2 straight seasons or whatever of Tennant, or I mean 3 or 4 seasons, and like he was cold, but like he does grow on you. Trust me. Like if you get towards the end of it, I rewatched like his finale the other day. Again, I'm on a deadline right now, so that should never ever be like said to anyone. But I was like, screw this, I'm gonna watch some Tennant, and his finale before you get Matt Smith is just absolutely amazing. So I hope you guys enjoy it.
Well, and just because you're on a deadline, you do need to take some breaks, because otherwise you get stifled.
There's those perfect lunch breaks is the way that I feel.
Exactly.
So, yeah, everyone needs sanity breaks.
As far as what you're reading right now, you're probably not reading anything because you're too busy doing the writing on your own.
Oh my goodness. I'm sitting on my bed right now because again, I said I was hiding from my dogs, and like, I have 11 books on my bedside table, and then I have 5 bookshelves in my room. So the books on my bedside table, Beth Revis she wrote Across the Universe. It's like a New York Times bestselling young adult book. She is fabulous, and I just got back from touring with her, and I snagged one of her personal arcs of A Million Suns, which is her sequel. So I'm reading her personal copy right now, and I have to send that back to her. Like, nobody has any copies of it yet. I'm so excited, and that's really good. And I have Beauty Queens by Libba Bray, and I'm almost done with that. And I have Red Glove by Holly Black, which is the sequel to White Cat, and I'm almost done with that. And I have Divergent by Veronica Roth, and I haven't read that yet. And then beneath it, I have an adult book, Mr. Peanut by Adam Ross, which I've been wanting to read. And The Knife of Never Letting Go, which is another young adult book by Patrick Ness. And I also have, just to spice things up a little bit, Sagas and Myths of the Northmen, A History of the Small and Invisible. Dust is the name of the book. It's a nonfiction, and A Literary Approach to the Bible. So those are all on my bedside table.
It's a good amount there.
A lot of bookmarks.
Yeah, a lot of bookmarks.
Yeah. Well, and I counted yesterday, I have 26 books to read. So there are 26 books on myself that I've purchased and I haven't read yet. So I'm a little behind, but it's really weird what I can read when I'm writing and editing. Like, I can't read anything in my genre generally, which is why I've got nonfiction and some myths and things like that, because I need to keep reading or else I fall really behind, but I really can't read anything close to what I'm writing because I don't even want to risk, 1, just being like distracted by it, or 2, kind of being distraught because what I'm working on is obviously not a finished draft, and what is in the books on my bedside table is a finished draft.
Yes.
And I think it's really hard sometimes to remember that.
It's pass after pass after pass. So.
Exactly. Considering it's had like 12 passes, I can't even look at anything finished while I'm working on something that's not finished, or else I just cry in the corner.
Well, we appreciate... Oh, he's got a question.
One last thing.
Oh, yeah.
What's the geekiest thing about you?
The geekiest thing? I don't know, I thought that Doctor Who talk was pretty geeky. In addition to being like a flaming Doctor Who fan these days, let's see. I was a competitive fencer for 5 years as like state champion and stuff. And people always just like associate fencing with like either, I don't know, people who wanted to like have a more live-action version of role-playing games, or people who went to really, really posh prep schools. So I feel like I get to, like, claim both camps there with the fencing. But I'm going to claim Doctor Who, I think, is a bit geekier.
I was going to say, I think that one was a lot more fun. She went into a whole...
Now, if you did fencing with lightsabers, that would have really put it over the top.
No, I'm not one of those kids who, like, goes to the park and, like, faux fights it out. I don't even know what that's called, but there is a term for the kids who, like, take foam swords and go to the park and fight each other.
It's called LARPing. I have some friends that do it, but we don't do it.
Yeah, I don't do that. So, like, I should do it just so that next time I'm asked that question, I can claim it. But,
and you could really kick ass.
I'm going to go with the, like, I could probably spend a good hour and a half having, like, an academic conversation on how Doctor Who is bigger on the inside. You know?
Very nice.
So, I'll own it.
Well, thanks again for taking
All
the
right.
time, and I know we went over, but it was
you're
fun
fine.
being able to talk about Doctor Who and all those
Yeah,
things.
I mean, it's worth it to be able to have some Who chat. I hope that Tennant grows on you guys more, because I feel like that you'll have to, like, email me when you catch back up to Matt Smith, because the end of Tennant is pretty epic. It's pretty wonderful.